Is there an art to writing? Is there an art to living? In today's episode, I'm going to lean into this idea of what a writing life or what incorporating writing into what you're already doing in life gets to look like. We're going to be asking lots of questions. I'm going to offer some slightly existential opportunities for you to reflect, maybe do some writing as you're listening, and see what shows up. I'm excited you're here, so let's get started. Lately, I have been leaning into what work gets to look like. I've really been asking myself questions when I'm out for a walk with the dog. Am I working right now? Because I might send a message on Voxer to my team or to my clients. I might be coaching someone. I might be having a phone call with a potential sponsor or networking opportunity. I ask, am I working when I take my son and I to dinner and we just have the most fun and we're giggling and laughing and I think of things that I'm learning and maybe I want to write down later? Am I working when I take a nap and reset in the middle of the day? And since my work revolves around writing and supporting others with their writing, I thought it'd be fun to do an episode where I explore the art of writing, which for me and those of you who have a desire to write a book and share your words, lends itself to exploring the art of living as well. So I want to back up and kind of give you some context for where this exploration kind of came from. So to me today, we're going to be kind of toggling between how I view myself as a coach and just kind of drawing from my training and education, as well as just my own personal philosophy and approaches to life and writing that I have gathered and developed from all the amazing people that I've interacted with, all the amazing education and reading and research and all the things that I've done. And so one thing that's really inspired me lately is I was on a call with one of my coaches, and we were really talking about this play between what is work, what is play, do we distinguish the two? And I was kind of telling the story where, when people ask me, oh, what do you do? And I say, oh, I own a business. What kind of business? Well, I support professionals in writing their book. Oh, wow. What does that look like? How do you do that? What is your schedule? And when it comes to like the practical explanation and what a day in the life of this work and this business looks like, I got to tell you, I get a little tongue-tied. I don't really know what to say because I don't have a set schedule. I don't work from 8 to 5. I don't have a ton of have to do this, can't do that types of moment in my life. And that is intentional. That's part of what inspired me to develop a business, to become a coach, to become a teacher in the first place, to teach at a university setting versus say in a K through 12 setting. And ultimately to do what I'm doing now was I liked the blurriness that I'm only just now starting to realize is between this idea of work and play. So as I was talking to my coach about this, she said, there's this really cool quote, and it's actually been cited multiple times, but the quote is LP Jacks, Lawrence Pearsall Jacks, an educator, Unitarian minister. He's a published author. I think said this quote like in a book from the 30s or something like that. And I've adapted the quote a bit because I didn't like, he used the word, it starts off with a master in the art of living. And I don't like that word master. I think it's history is just not something that I choose to use as much as I can avoid it. And then it was all couched around the pronouns of he and his, kind of masculine pronouns. And so I flipped it a little bit. And so here's my rework of it, but it has the core intentions of the quote still present. A goddess in the art of living draws no distinction between her work and her play, her labor and her leisure, her mind and her body, her education and her recreation. She hardly knows which is which. She simply pursues her vision of excellence through whatever she is doing and leaves others to determine if she is working or playing. To herself, she always appears to be doing both, end quote. So I kind of adapted it for me because it sort of represented this blurring together that I often feel around writing and living and working and everything in betwixt and between. So I really, when people come and they talk about writing, especially when they start to get all bogged down around, oh, I don't know if I have the time to do this. I don't know if I have the time and energy to dedicate, right? They're conjuring up these stories of what it is like to live the life of a writer or to be working on a piece of writing or writing a book, right? So it's interesting to explore and redefine things like work. What does work mean for you? What does that look like for you? And does that still support what you want work to look like, right? So a little moment to reflect is kind of what I've been doing as of late. We recently had a team retreat where we kind of booked a house with each other, the people on my team, the amazing people who are supporting me and supporting the vision for our business and our clients and all of their amazing work. And we really leaned into, what do we want our work in this company to look like? What do we like of what we're doing? What do we want to do more of? What do we want to do less of? What do we want to take off of our plate because it is not in alignment with our values, or to kind of use the Big Leaps, the book, The Big Leaps idea of zone of genius versus zone of excellence. We really got to explore that. And that really helped us reshape, like, what does our work want to look like? And what does that mean for us? So I invite you, as you're kind of exploring this life where you're incorporating writing and trying to work on something, putting something out there in the world, what do you want that writing work to look like alongside the other things that you're doing, right? And then redefining writing in and of itself and how we write. It gets interesting to think of what counts as writing. And I love the question of, how am I always writing? How am I always creating? And when we ask ourselves that question and we kind of explore that, or for me, I would say, how am I always working? Not in a negative way, like, oh my gosh, I'm always working, but how is my nap a part of my work? How is me taking a walk with the dog a part of my work? How is me taking my son and I to dinner a part of my daily work, right? And we get to do the same around writing. How is my walk with my dog helping me write, right? Am I writing right now? Am I thinking of things right now? How is this podcast a part of my writing journey and help supporting me on my next book? So it gets really interesting when we just pose everything as a question versus imposing this story of what we think writing is, right? What you have to do, XYZ. You have to have this much time. It takes this much time to write a book. I know people who've written books in a matter of weeks. I know people who've written books, it's taken years. So how can that be true, right? Both are true, right? So really, when we think about the art of writing alongside the art of living, how do we want to define writing, and what does writing get to look like for us? And I really invite you to just explore what's possible when we draw less hard lines between working, writing, and living, and we allow those lines to be blurry. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't invite consistency. This doesn't mean that we don't write, or we don't work, or we don't live in the ways that we want to, but it's just simply an opportunity to reflect and say, what is happening now? What of that is supporting me and serving me still? What, if anything, needs to be reimagined? And what can be some aligned action steps to move forward and to make that happen? And that is whether we are talking about our work life, our writing life, our living life. To me, it all gets it's just this beautiful cauldron of soupy yumminess that gets blended together. And that's why I go back to that adapted quote from LB Jacks of, she always appears to be doing both. Leave others to determine whether you're writing or you're playing or you're working or you're living. What if we worry less about carving out time to write and simply work to do things that inspire us, knowing and trusting when we are in those places and doing those things that honor our values, the writing is going to come right alongside that. I'm curious how today landed with you. We got a little philosophical today, but those are the kinds of conversations that we have with our clients all the time and coach our clients through, both the really checking in and honoring and embodying how we want to be in the world and letting the writing come from that versus trying to step into this way of being and writing that may or may not really be aligned with us. As always, thank you for joining us, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Written Compass. If you are enjoying this content, do me a favor and go and review the podcast. This allows me to share and get these messages out to the people who really need them, who we want to read their books in the future. You can also go and share your thoughts and tag me at Shana Hartman _ on Instagram. Again, this is just a way for us to get connected and share the writing love. And if you know that you are ready to write your book, that message that's been burning inside of you for a long time, then I want to talk to you. My team and I want to talk to you. Head on over to shanahartman.com and click work with us. From there, you'll see an application to explore and see if writing your book is your next best step.